We got a whole bunch of topics here today, but one that's going to be notably absent is anything to do with U.S. politics. I'll give you a little aside about what's happening today. Over the weekend, a vote at the Utah GOP was conducted, and they voted to censure Mitt Romney. Aha, sucks to suck. And then on Wednesday, there's going to be the vote to remove Liz Cheney, and Elise Stefanik is going to get installed in her old spot. So outside of that, there's not a lot kicking around today when it comes to politics, which is good because we can explore a bunch of other topics that I've had on the back burner. They're starting to pile up. There's a bunch more in-depth stuff that I want to take a look at when we get closer to it being consistently nice outside. And I want to take a day off over the weekend and maybe go play some golf or something fun like that. And oh, just another quick aside. I just remembered this, of course. The channel just crossed 400 subscribers, and that is fucking awesome. And thank you all very, very much. And then if you guys are watching this on Rumble, which I'm not too sure how views work, but I have my highest viewed video by fucking a magnitude of at least 3 over there, which is staggeringly impressive, at least for me, okay? The super small channel. But it's very, very impressive and very, very heartwarming that once the videos do get out there, people tend to enjoy them. And I really appreciate that and really like that. And we just crossed 200 subscribers over on Rumble, which is fantastic. And then shout out over to Odyssey, and I see you guys plugging away over there. That channel is by far the youngest. I think I just started to upload to that in early March, and it's already closing in on 60 subscribers or 60 followers, however they do that. Doesn't sound like big numbers if you guys are coming over from a much larger channel just to check out the daily content. I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. I don't like to stump for subscribers or likes or anything like that, and I'm not going to start anytime soon. I just wanted to make note of that. I don't know. YouTube's kind of fucking goofy, so maybe by the time you're watching this, it dropped by 1, or maybe it fucking gained by 1. Who knows? Who cares? I just appreciate everybody who takes the time to come and check out what I'm passionate about and what we're talking about for the day. And right now, I'm passionate about Africa. Why? Because capitalism is good. It is the only way that you lift countries out of poverty and make people successful. Why? Because it relies on the individual. And why is that a good thing? Because when individuals are incentivized to succeed, good things like this happen. Africa doesn't need more developmental aid. It needs more capitalism. And this was the prevailing thought and opinion. And as you can see, this article is from August 5th of 2019. God, doesn't that feel like a fucking decade ago at this point? But this was when Africa was on the come up, okay? It's one of the biggest humanitarian crises of at least my time. It's one of those things where I remember is just a constant out there. It's like, okay, donate money for the clean water for kids in Africa, okay? I remember specifically for the couple of years that I was out there actually trick-or-treating. I think I went for from like the age of 3 until the age of 9 or maybe 10. I'm not too sure. I can't quite remember. But that's what happens when you were a massive kid. You couldn't really get away. You'd just get more questions like, how old are you when you go and fucking trick or treat? And it's like, I'm only 10. And it's like, stop lying. And it's like, well, I don't want to knock you out, bitch. So I'll just fucking sit the next year out. No, you'd stump around and you'd have the UNICEF box, okay? And that money was supposedly, later years going back on, looking through the numbers on there, most of that money make it to the kids over in Africa? Not so much. But it's one of those things where you just kept throwing money at it, hoping that it would get better, and nothing really worked. Until free-ish markets, guided markets, instead of central planning or constant overturn of a different regime wearing Super Bowl championship team paraphernalia from the Buffalo Bills with fucking Adidas track pants and machetes and AK-47s for 12-year-olds. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing what human ingenuity can do. Also what it can do to an Isuzu pickup by installing a belt-fed machine gun onto the back of it. But anyways, we're talking about capitalism here. In 1990, great year, the UN made a commitment to reduce global poverty by 50% within 25 years. That was an ambitious goal that has been achieved largely due to China's success. Yeah, the most people there that were in poverty are now killed off, so we don't have to worry about them. But we'll circle back to China real soon. Within that same period, the percentage of the population living below the poverty line decreased from 56.8% to 42.7% across the continent of Africa. That's terrific. However, with 20% of Africa living under the specter of starvation, a higher percentage than anywhere else in the world, there is still a long way to go. Yeah, exactly. But they were on the come up, of course. And the situation has not improved in recent years. In fact, it has deteriorated, especially in Africa. The State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World report for 2019 was jointly published by several UN organizations and confirmed a rise in world hunger for the third year in a row. It's pretty dour right now, but trust me, it turns around. It is now estimated that there are 821 million chronically undernourished people in the world in the period up to 2015. This number has been in decline. It has now climbed back to levels last seen in 2011. Compared to 2017, the proportion of malnourished people, 20%, has increased in almost all regions of Africa. The worst hit regions are East Africa, where almost 31% of the population suffer from malnutrition, and Central Africa, where the figure is 26.5%. Seems pretty dour, huh? How do you reverse that? Not by just dropping money in there and telling them, farewell, have fun fighting over that. We'll come back with our next fucking Dumbo drop pallet in Asia. Wait a minute, I thought we were talking about Africa. The fight against poverty and hunger has been so effective because so many Asian countries have implemented capitalist reforms. In China alone, thanks to the partial introduction of private property rights and free market economics, the proportion of people living in extreme poverty has fallen from 88% to 1981 to below 1% today. A little bit of a drastic change, don't you think? Dambizia Moyo, who studied at Harvard and earned her PhD from Oxford, quite a smart individual, identifies Western development aid as one of the reasons for the failures to rid Africa of poverty. In the past 50 years, over $1 trillion in development-related aid has been transferred from rich countries to Africa, Moyo pointed out in her book Dead Aid. But has more than $1 trillion in developmental assistance over the last several decades made African people better off? No, in fact. Across the globe, the recipients of this aid are worse off, much worse off. Aid has helped make the poor poorer and growth slower. Yeah, exactly. Because you have to keep coming back and making sure that the people have to get fed, okay? People have to get the clean water. You have to keep providing for them instead of teaching them means in order for them to create their own wealth. Seems pretty fucking straightforward to me. She's pointing that out here. At least she's got the numbers to back it up. The notion that aid can alleviate systemic poverty, and has done so, is a myth. Millions in Africa are poor today because of aid. Misery and poverty have not ended, but have increased. Yeah, because you're constantly worried about when the next handout's going to be coming. Aid has been, and continues to be, an unmitigated political, economic, and humanitarian disaster for most parts of the developing world. But then we got hope for Africa, which sounds like it would be some kind of a benefit organized by that fucking crooked Ponzi scheme operator Bono, and that shit band U2. But there is still hope for Africa. The rise of broadband and mobile technology has led to loosening of state control across many industries and allowed entrepreneurs to thrive independent of government support and political connections. Many of this newly emerged class of self-confident young Africans have studied overseas, typically in Europe and the United States. You know, those racist places that wouldn't possibly allow a minority to come in and get a PhD, or let alone study in one country in like a prestigious place and then get another doctorate over across the ocean in the most prestigious place in the world. That never happens. Checkmate systemic racism. Unnoticed by the wealthy global North, Africa is seeing an emergence of a class of entrepreneurs who are driving and shaping the economic upswing, try to combine those two words, across the continent. Africa offers plenty of economic opportunities. However, some of the predictions of a massive boom across the continent currently bandied about by pundits are based on models that fall short of realistic appreciation of the facts on the ground, attempting to replicate Asian success stories in Africa without taking the The differences between the two continents into consideration is too simplistic. Yes, perhaps they need the guiding hand of the CCP, which is exactly what they're getting right now, which should be troubling to literally everybody, because Beijing has built an infrastructure, lent billions, and located its first overseas military base there. Now, top U.S. general warns that they built an Atlantic naval base. This is not good, because we've seen the numbers check out. Things were going good. Then the CCP came in, and seeing how successful the strategy worked in their own province, in their own state, they decided to lend a helping hand via the Belt and Road strategy in order to capitalize on the economic power vacuum that exists in Africa. Because as you can see by this fancy chart here, they're specifically targeting Djibouti City, which is just fun to say. But you take a look, established Chinese base. Oh my God. You got one right there in Djibouti, opened in 2017, just before everything started to kind of collapse in Africa. And they've got 2,000 troops there, armored troops, helicopter landing pads, docks for warships, all that kind of fun stuff. And where are the places that are most in debt? Okay, because we've seen in that Forbes article, who's getting affected hardest? East Africa right now. Oh, where are the places that are most developed, have the most Chinese-backed power structures? Oh my God, is that East Africa that's also the most in debt? Oh my God, it's almost like they just want to develop. They realize that in China you can't really push any farther to the north because Putin would just summarily smack you down. Expanding any more to the west would be just as impossible, because then you'd be encroaching on all the gains that India has made, and Pakistan's right there, and you can't really do that. And do you want to go fuck around with Japan? That's never worked out historically for you, and there's enough treaties around the world where you would definitely be setting off a bunch of shit that you don't want to be dealing with anytime soon. So the only place that you got to go to the place that's currently in a fucking bind, because they were on the come up big fucking time. And it's smart. This is what they do. This is just a microcosm of what the CCP has been doing across the entire world. They have been doing this to Australia, New Zealand, Canada, putting in all this infrastructure, buying up little portions of important parts of the society, not just the infrastructure, media as well. You guys know, Tencent, one of the largest media companies in the world, and the CCP funded and controlled. We've listed all the things that they control, or at least have a significant stake in. What was it? 3 out of the 5 major movie houses, production companies, so many large video game developers as well. This little expose is just a shot across the bow. Look at what's happening to a place that's in a little bit worse off position, a place that could be exploited very easily, and just be mindful of what happens next. On the west side of Djibouti City sits a sprawling military compound with razor wire topped walls, our helipads, a dock large enough to fit aircraft carriers and 2,000 troops alongside armor vehicles and gunboats. Sounds like a hell of a good time. Opened in 2017, China's first overseas military base, but could soon be many located across Africa if those sounding the alarm in Washington are correct. The DoD warned last year that Beijing has likely sought bases in Angola, Seychelles, Kenya, and Tanzania. And just this week, General Stephen Townsend, America's top brass in Africa, warned a new naval base, similar to one in Djibouti, could soon appear on Africa's west coast. Yeah. We've also been hearing some saber rattling, and I guess this is another little aside to U.S. politics, but it bears repeating. There's been some talk about Biden paying close attention to what's happening in Kenya, and seeing these reports about what they're doing to Africa right now, it's weird. It just seems a little bit more than coincidental that a expose like this would come out and we'd be hearing reports of some places in Africa being watched by the DoD at the moment. A little weird. The Chinese are out maneuvering the United States and select countries in Africa, General Townsend said when he issued the warning. Port projects, economic endeavors, infrastructure, and their agreements and the contracts will lead to greater access to the future. They're hedging their bets and making big bets on Africa. Exactly. They're just trying to find that vibranium and crack the shield and get into Wakanda. We already know that's high above, or rather high on top of Kamala Harris's priority list. I've seen the salutes that she's given. Those are dog whistles to the people of Africa. So let's see what China's doing and see if this kind of echoes in your specific country or specific state. Railways, China is building them, including new lines between Mombasa and Nairobi in Kenya, Abuja. Sorry, my clicks and whistles are a little bit rusty. And Kaduna in Nigeria, Lobido and Lua in Angola, and between Ethiopia and Djibouti. Ports, China again, constructing or expanding no less than 41 harbors. Wow. In sub-Saharan Africa up to 2019, according to a CSIS report, meaning Beijing now has commercial interest in around 1 in 5 of the total. Big old fucking Australian flags. Africa's power grid is also being transformed off the back of Chinese investments. Environmentalists kicked up a stink that emerged late last year that China has financed several new coal-fired plants in Africa, which they'll never be held accountable for, and I'm sure that they have the top-tier climate-related technologies to diminish any sort of carbon emissions on. I'm sure that's high on top of their priorities. Just look at how much pollution China creates. Plans for 13 more, but the country is investing in hydroelectric and the interest in some of the continent's largest dams. Hopefully they're built better than the Three Rivers Dam, which could very well explode this year, but who knows, we'll see. Meanwhile, China has lent at least $153 billion to African governments to finance the development, according to the China African Research Initiative, though the real total is thought to be far higher once other types of financing, such as grants and direct investments, are included. Yeah. Projects don't stop there. According to the Heritage Foundation, China has built no fewer than 186 government buildings in 40 out of 54 African countries, developing 70% of the continent's 4G networks, and even built sensitive intragovernmental communications networks for 14 nations. And I'm sure that they did those with 100% transparency, of course. Even in the African Union headquarters, located in Ethiopia, was fully financed and built by China. Maybe you don't care about this, okay? Maybe this type of world building is just what you'd expect, okay? You have somebody come in, they see an economic opportunity, and they finance it. I'm just concerned about who is doing it, okay? The longest time, world building was exclusively a United States of America effort. Should they be doing that? That's a moral question. But should China be allowed to do it? Not with their current direction, okay? Not with what they're doing. That's why I've got to doubt some of the numbers that we have from that first article, the Forbes article there. Oh, they've slashed national hunger. Yeah, anybody who was hungry was put in a camp in a province where Disney likes to film their live-action remakes. And therefore, hey, all of a sudden, guess what? Global poverty and world hunger somehow just goes down overnight. It's fucking amazing. I just see this as the most concentrated example of the Belt and Road strategy, and it's going to be bearing fruit very, very soon because, as you know, the strategy there is here's a whole bunch of money, and then eventually they're going to have to come back and collect, and it's like, oh, fuck. Well, all we can do is just sell you back the buildings that you built for us. How about that? And all of a sudden, it becomes the communist takeover of Africa, and that's a big old fucking place with a lot of fucking people and a lot of resources that are going to be important in the coming century, especially with all the rare earth minerals that are there. I joked about vibranium, but there are natural resource pockets that are being discovered that are going to be instrumental to technology. Lithium, several other materials that are being found there in large quantities. That's going to be the manufacturing hub of the world, potentially in a couple decades' time. And to think about China having control over such a large continent with the fragile economic state, we're going to be seeing Chinese slavery over Africans, and it's not going to be fucking pretty, okay? I'm just sounding the alarm right now because I'm not satisfied with what the Biden administration is up to, because they're the only ones who can fight back. Trudeau's still grabbing his ankles whenever he hears the three letters CCP pop up. The Biden administration views China's rapidly expanding economic influence and military might as America's primary long-term security challenge. You can keep saying it, but if you aren't going to do anything about it, then what fucking good are you? Perfect summation of the Biden administration so far. U.S. military commanders around the globe, including several who may lose troops and resources to bolster growth in the Pacific, caution the Chinese growing assertiveness isn't simply happening in Asia. And they argue that Beijing is aggressively asserting economic influence over countries in Africa, South America, and the Middle East, and is pursuing bases and footholds there. I can't speak so much about South America, I'm not too sure, but I would have to imagine it would look something like this, considering all of the political turmoil that's there and all the wonderful boons that socialism has wrought in places like Venezuela and what's going on in Colombia right now that is very horrifying, because if you want to see hundreds of thousands of very angry, very starved people out in the streets causing a ruckus, the revolutionaries in Portland definitely have something to fucking work towards. But when it comes to the Middle East, yeah, they've got quite a strong pact with Pakistan and Iran right now. That's unsettling to say the least, because if you guys probably remember, you could remember this, at the end of 2020 when China was moving warships into the sea, into Indian waters. That was looking a little tense for a while. Haven't heard any more flare-ups of that, probably because anybody who was reporting on that found themselves at the bottom of the ocean. They were probably put on duty to catch whatever debris falls from that fucking rocket. And I haven't heard anything about. Is anybody else? I don't know. Maybe by the time of the publishing of this video, we'll fucking know a little bit more. That's what China's up to. I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it, but I can see what they're doing, and they're wildly successful. It's not a new strategy. It's something that Germans were doing for a very long time, pre-World War II, okay? And perhaps Xi Jinping is looking at the strategies of what the Germans were doing and trying to perfect it a little bit. So we could be heading in for quite a tricky situation. I don't want to invoke any comparisons and similarities, but $20 says world domination is pretty high up on Ping's priority list. Well, let's keep up with this hodgepodge of topics by switching and doing something completely different here with the second video. I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.